Oh man, tired and excited. Awesome. Genius is an interesting word. And, I'm going to ask you when I say it to consider for a moment who are the first ones that come to your mind when I say the word genius. Think about it for a second. And then I'm going to make a pretty bold assumption. You guys ready? You ready? Yeah, let's go. I'm going to imagine that Einstein was on that list, probably. Or Galileo, Michelangelo, Da Vinci, maybe me, Picasso, Plato, Nikola Tesla, Beethoven, and then probably me again. No, if we're being honest, I know that none of you probably put me on your list. And that's okay. But did you put you? Did you put you on that list? And if so, why not? You see, our modern understanding of genius is often grounded in the levels of which we achieve, the things that we create, and the moments that we accomplish. And so when we hear the word genius, we commonly associate Picasso and Einstein and Beethoven and these people who went on to do incredible things. And the reason is because they have reached a level of humanity that few have. And so we label them this term, genius. But what if I told you that the original definition of genius did not symbolize that at all? If you travel back with me to the first century, when the word genius was created, its original intention was this, that there's a divine within us that will guide your path. I'm going to read that again. The original definition of genius was that there is a divine within us that will guide our path. We don't believe that. Our understanding of genius is not that. Because somewhere along human history, we've allowed voices around us to redefine our understanding of genius. Once being grounded in the essence of who we are, has now shifted to the things that we do. When I was in first grade, my class, they assigned this story to be told, and immediately I sat down, and ideas began to flood my mind of my dog finding a dinosaur in my backyard, and I began to flood the pages with words of this story that I thought was incredible. I get done, and I turn it into my teacher, and I thought, wow, this is good. I turn it in. A day later, our phone rings, and our teacher asked if myself and my parents would come into the school so they could talk about the story that I created. We go in, and sitting before me was the masterpiece that I had created. And they said, "This is incredible. And we truly believe that Blaine could be a New York Times bestseller." That did not happen. I failed that assignment, and it was not a good piece of creation. But my point is that although you may not have created something before, that although you may not have failed a class before, that I'm pretty certain that there have been voices in your life that have proclaimed that you're not worthy, that you're not good enough, that you're not capable. And how often do we try to let those voices come in and out, but typically they will fall root, and they will take stronghold in our heart. The moment that we allow the voices around us to define who we can become, it will pull us out of alignment of the life that we were created to live. And I just wonder what gap in the world there would be if we allowed the voices around us to dim the genius that is you. There's a graph that I want to show, and this graph, I think, is a visual depiction of the reality that we live. And in the 15 to 1600s, what you'll see is that the use of the word genius is pretty rare. But in the 17 to 1800s, there is an explosion of the word genius. A lot of the geniuses that we have come to know today fall into that period. But as we look into present time, 1900s to today, it goes back to being obsolete. And the question that I want you to consider is, do you really believe that there were more geniuses then than there are now? Of course not. But so we believe, we then will become. And I don't want that to be your story. I don't want that to be your truth. And so let me be very clear with my intention and hope for you today. My hope is that maybe that today could be a marker in your story for the first time in your life that you will have, without question, the certainty that you are a genius. That something within you the world desperately needs to experience. And so I know what you're probably thinking. Okay, Blaine, I don't yet believe, but I'll consider. I'll consider that maybe I'm a genius. That maybe there's something within me that the world needs to experience. But the next logical question that I'm sure you're asking is, how do I bring life to it? How do I live a life that reflects the genius that is me? And I hear you. And so I wanted to share a story that I feel has painted the clearest picture for me of a life worth pursuing. And the outcome of that, I believe, will put your genius on full display. And so the story begins with a young boy, and growing up, his whole life, his parents had instilled within him this certain responsibility to know what is right from what is wrong, what to do versus what not to do, where to go versus where to avoid. And for a majority of his life, he followed that footstep. But as he grew older, as we all are aware, certain moments in our life will get influenced by the things around us. And so this young boy quickly found himself consumed by alcohol, drugs, and parties. And the thing that we need to know about things of this world is that once we get involved with them, they create a cycle. And once you're involved in a cycle, one of two things will happen. Either you will destroy the cycle, or the cycle will destroy you. And that young boy, he didn't realize that then. But he knows it now. One night, on the way home from a party under the influence of drugs and alcohol, the young boy was about a quarter mile from his house. And as the road began to turn, he did not. And he drove his car straight off of the road, hitting a tree head on. On impact, his body pursued through the front of the windshield, and you don't have to be a human anatomy expert to understand the significance of what I'm about to share, but one piece of glass in particular cut from the back of his head to the front of his neck. And as he lied there in the grass, bleeding out, he realized that for the first moment in his life, that every day building up into that day, he had lived for himself. That every decision he made was an attempt to find temporary joy, momentary satisfaction. And in a plea of desperation, he cried out, if I could just live one more day, I would live all of my days grounded in loving others. The young boy fell unconscious. And on their way home from work that night, an EMT first responder saw the skid marks in the road, and they pulled off to find this boy's lifeless body laying there. They grab him, they take him to the hospital, and hour after hour, they did everything they could to restore him back to life. And eventually they did. And if you saw that young boy today, you would not recognize him for the past that he had endured. Because he grew up to become many things: a volunteer firefighter, a police officer, a rescue diver, a man of faith, but above all, a father to one beautiful daughter named Brooklyn and one average son, me. You see, when I was young, my dad set me down and he told me his life story. And he never told me not to drink, he never told me not to do drugs, but he said, this is the life that I lived and this is the path that I walked, and if you follow my footsteps, I cannot promise that you will be as lucky as I have been. I saw a life that did not align with my purpose. I saw a life that did not reflect the genius that is me. And although my father's story changed my life forever, it was the last thing that he said in this conversation that I would never forget. He said, Blaine, each day that I wake up, I strive to become just a little bit more than who I was yesterday. Oh, wow. Imagine who you would become if you lived life with that posture. That when you wake up, you strive to become more patient than we were yesterday. That when you step into a classroom, a better student, into a field, a better athlete, into a home, a better parent, in any aspect that you step into, the moment you arrive, you just aim to be a little bit better than who you were yesterday. If you did that, tomorrow, you would be impactful. If you did that for a month, you would be changed. If you did that for a year, unrecognizable. That is the result of a life grounded in love. And so we've talked about genius, we've defined genius, we've given examples to pursue genius, but now we're at a critical intersection where you have to decide. Will I live a life that reflects the genius that is me? Will you decide? Because until the day you do, someone will be waiting for you. They are waiting to hear your voice. They are waiting to experience the idea that you will create. They are waiting to experience the essence that is you. There is a void in this earth until you step into your place. But will you? You have to believe. You have to believe that there's something within you that the world desperately needs to experience. I leave you with this. A couple months back, it's my birthday. I had just written my first book. I was recovering from a sickness that took my ability to walk away from me for months. And I was asked this question: if I could go back and relive any day, what day would that be? And I thought for a moment, and then I said I wouldn't, because the best has yet to come. I stand in front of you today because I gave an answer to a question that I did not yet believe myself. But we have to. We have to believe that tomorrow can be more than today, that the future can be better than the past, because the day that we think the best is behind us is the day that it will be. And so will you decide? Because the divine within you that's trying to guide your path, that divine's name is love. And the question that it is asking you is, will you follow me? So I leave with this. The day that love will become the focus of your life, impact will become your mission. And the day that impact becomes your mission, genius will be your outcome. Thank you guys so much. Go be a light.